The space station hung in the darkness like a massive wheel turning slowly against the stars. Inside, the diplomatic hall buzzed with activity as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the meeting. Lisa Martinez stood near the entrance, her dark uniform crisp and clean. She watched the crowd with careful eyes, her hand resting near her sidearm out of habit. Captain Daniel Hayes walked beside Ambassador Kate as they entered the hall. Lisa fell into step behind them, her boots clicking softly on the metal floor. She had served in the Marines for 8 years before taking this assignment. Diplomatic escort duty seemed boring compared to her previous work, but orders were orders. The delegation waited at the far end of the hall. They were tall creatures, nearly 7 feet high, with purple skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their bodies were thin and elongated, with 4 arms that moved in strange patterns as they talked among themselves. Commander Hal stood at their center, his chest covered in medals that caught the light. Kate approached with a smile, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Hal looked down at her hand as if she had offered him something disgusting. His translator device clicked and hummed before his words came through in perfect English. "So these are the humans," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "I expected something more impressive." Kate lowered her hands slowly, her smile never wavering. "Commander Hal, we are honored to meet with the Confederation. We hope this can be the beginning of a productive partnership." Hal made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. The other joined in, their bodies shaking with amusement. "Partnership? You barely have the strength to stand upright. Look at you, so short and thick. Your planet must have very little gravity for you to move at all." Daniel stepped forward, his jaw tight. "Earth's gravity is within normal range for habitable worlds. We have come here in good faith to discuss trade agreements that would benefit both our peoples." "Trade?" Hal circled around the human delegation, his multiple eyes examining them from different angles. "What could you possibly offer us? Your technology is primitive, your ships are slow, and your bodies—" He paused, reaching out with one long finger to poke Daniel's shoulder. "So soft, so weak." Lisa felt her muscles tense. She had dealt with bullies before, both human and otherwise. But standing here watching her captain being treated like this made her blood run hot. She forced herself to remain still, to keep her face neutral. Kate maintained her diplomatic composure. "Commander, perhaps we could move past physical comparisons and discuss the resources our worlds could share. Earth has rich deposits of rare minerals, and our agricultural methods could help feed growing populations across the galaxy." Hal returned to his position at the center of his group. With a sudden motion, he grabbed a metal support beam that ran along the wall. His 4 hands gripped it firmly. The muscles in his arms flexed, and the metal began to bend. With a shriek of stressed metal, the beam crumpled in his grasp like paper. He tossed it to the floor where it landed with a heavy clang. "This is strength," he announced, spreading his arms wide. "We are warriors, we are builders, we have conquered 12 star systems through our power. And you," he pointed at the humans, "you come from some easy world where everything is soft and safe. You have no strength, you have no power, you are children playing at being adults." The other alien delegates in the hall watched with interest. Some seemed uncomfortable with Hal's behavior, but none spoke up. Lisa noticed several of them whispering among themselves, probably discussing the humans and their apparent weakness. Kate's smile finally faded. "Commander Hal, we have proven ourselves capable in many areas. Our scientists, our engineers, our explorers have accomplished things that earned us provisional membership in the Galactic Council. We ask only for fair consideration." "Fair consideration?" Hal moved closer to Kate, looming over her. "Why should we trade with those who cannot even defend themselves? Why should we acknowledge you as equals when you are clearly inferior? No, humans, you want our respect, you want our trade, then prove you deserve it." Daniel stepped between Hal and Kate. "What are you suggesting?" "A test," Hal said, his voice growing excited. "A demonstration of strength. Choose your strongest warrior. If they can match in physical combat, we will consider your proposal. If they fail, you will accept that humans have no place among the strong races of the galaxy." The hall fell silent. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She knew what was coming next. Daniel would have to accept the challenge, or the entire diplomatic mission would fail. Earth needed these trade agreements. Humanity's expansion into space depended on forming alliances with other races. Kate looked at Daniel. They shared a long glance, communicating without words. Finally, Daniel turned back to Hal. "We accept your challenge," he said quietly. Hal's expression shifted to something that might have been satisfaction. "Excellent. You have 3 days to prepare. Choose your champion wisely." He turned to leave, his delegation following behind him. As they walked away, Lisa heard them laughing among themselves. The other aliens in the hall began to disperse, casting curious glances at the human delegation. Lisa waited until the room had mostly emptied before approaching Daniel and Kate. "Captain," she said simply. Daniel looked at her, his expression tired. "Yes, Martinez." "I'll do it, sir. I'll be our champion." Kate shook her head. "Lisa, we don't even know what the challenge will involve. This could be dangerous." "With respect, Ambassador, everything we do out here is dangerous, but backing down now would be worse." Lisa stood straight, her hands clasped behind her back. "I grew up on Earth. I trained on Earth. I know what humans can do. Let me show them." Daniel studied her face for a long moment. "You understand what's at stake here. If we lose this challenge, it could set back human relations with dozens of species." "I understand, sir." The training facility aboard the station was empty when Lisa arrived. She had requested privacy for her preparation, and Daniel had agreed. The room stretched out before her, filled with equipment from dozens of different worlds. Weight machines built for species with 6 limbs stood next to running tracks designed for creatures that moved on tentacles. Jake waited for her near the control panel. The engineer looked up from his tablet as she entered, his red hair falling across his forehead. "Morning, Lisa. I've been going through everything we have on biology. You're going to want to hear this." Lisa set down her bag and walked over to him. "Show me what you found." Jake tapped his tablet, and a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air above them. It showed a body, rotating slowly so they could see it from all angles. "The evolved on a planet called Vex Prime. The gravity there is about 40% of what we have on Earth." "Low gravity," Lisa said, nodding. "That explains why they're so tall and thin." "Exactly, but here's the interesting part." Jake highlighted sections of the body in red. "They compensate for their natural weakness with mechanical augmentation. See these? These are artificial muscle enhancers implanted throughout their bodies. And this," he pointed to the skeleton, "their bones are reinforced with metal alloys. Without these modifications, they would be much weaker than they appear." Lisa studied the image carefully. "So their strength comes from technology, not from natural evolution." "Right, and there's more." Jake pulled up another display, this one showing graphs and numbers. "I compared their bone density to ours. Even with their augmentations, their skeletal structure is designed for low gravity. Put them in Earth's gravity without their enhancements, and they would struggle to stand." The door opened and Amy walked in, carrying a medical bag. The doctor looked tired but alert. "Sorry I'm late. I had to finish some scans from the medical bay." She set her bag down and pulled out a handheld scanner. "Lisa, I need to run a full diagnostic on you that will probably demand proof that you're not augmented before the challenge." Lisa held out her arms and stood still while Amy ran the scanner over her body. The device beeped and hummed, collecting data. After several minutes, Amy studied the results on her tablet. "Everything looks normal," Amy said. "Well, normal for a human from Earth. Your bone density is 3.2 times higher than the average. Your muscle mass ratio is impressive, even for someone with your training background. And your cardiovascular system could handle pressures that would kill most species in this part of the galaxy." "Is that good?" Lisa asked. Amy laughed. "Good. Lisa, you're a walking tank compared to most aliens out here. The average warrior, even with all their augmentations, probably has about 60% of your natural strength." Jake looked up from his tablet. "I've been thinking about that. They see themselves as the strongest race in their local cluster. They've built their entire culture around physical dominance, but they've never encountered a species from a high-gravity world before." "Earth's gravity is considered high." Lisa had never thought about it that way. Earth was just home. "By galactic standards, yes," Jake explained. "Most habitable worlds have gravity between 30 and 70% of Earth's. Our planet is on the extreme end of what can support complex life. That's why so many aliens find our environment dangerous." Lisa walked over to the weight machines. She selected one designed for species similar to the and set it to what the console listed as a challenging level. She lifted it easily, her muscles barely straining. "So what you're telling me is that we've been living our entire lives in what other species would consider a training weight?" "Essentially, yes," Amy said. Every step you take on Earth, you're fighting against gravity that most aliens find crushing. Every breath you take works lungs that are adapted to air pressure they find oppressive. You've been training for this your whole life without knowing it. The implications of that statement settled over Lisa. She had always known Earth could be harsh. The storms, the weather changes, the animals that saw humans as prey or competition. But she had never considered that the very act of existing on her home world made her stronger than most beings in the galaxy. "Tell me about the challenge," Lisa said, moving to a different piece of equipment. "What do you think they'll make me do?" Jake pulled up his notes. Based on culture, they favor tests of raw physical power, lifting competitions, breaking objects, that sort of thing. They might also include endurance challenges since they pride themselves on their stamina. Can their augmentations give them any advantage over me? In short bursts, maybe, Amy said. Their muscle enhancers can provide temporary boosts to power output, but they have limits. The devices can overheat and they drain energy quickly. Your natural muscles don't have those problems. Lisa spent the next hour testing different equipment. She lifted weights that Jake said were rated for species twice her size. She ran on a track set to increased gravity, finding that even at 1.5 times Earth's normal pull, she could still move comfortably. Amy monitored her vitals throughout, making notes on her tablet. "Your heart rate barely increased," Amy said with amazement. "Lisa, I don't think you understand how unusual you are by galactic standards." "I'm just a regular Marine," Lisa said, catching her breath after a sprint. "No," Jake said firmly. "You're a human, and humans are not regular by any measure out here." Over the next 3 days, Lisa trained carefully. She ate well, slept enough, and studied everything Jake could find about combat techniques. Kate stopped by occasionally to check on her progress, always looking worried. Daniel visited once, bringing her a message from Earth Command. "They're watching this closely," he told her. "The entire diplomatic corps is nervous about the outcome, but they also sent this." He handed her a data chip. "Messages from your family." Lisa played the messages in her quarters that night. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, smiling despite the worry in her eyes. "We know you can do this. You've always been strong, even as a little girl. Show them what Earth raised." Her brother's message was shorter. "Kick their butts, sis, make us proud." The night before the challenge, Lisa lay in her bunk and stared at the ceiling. She thought about Earth, about the gravity that had shaped her bones, about the storms that had taught her to be resilient, about the training that had pushed her body to its limits. She thought about all the humans who had come before her, surviving and thriving on a world that most aliens would find lethal. She was ready. The morning of the challenge, the station buzzed with activity. News of the contest had spread throughout the diplomatic community. Representatives from dozens of species had requested permission to observe. Kate told her that betting pools had formed, with odds heavily favoring the. "Let them bet," Lisa said calmly. "They're about to learn an expensive lesson." In the preparation room, Amy ran one final scan to verify Lisa's lack of augmentation. Jake gave her a brief rundown of what he expected. Daniel stood near the door, his arms crossed over his chest. "Martinez," he said quietly, "no matter what happens out there, you've already done humanity proud. You're brave to even accept this challenge." Lisa smiled at him. "With respect, sir, bravery has nothing to do with it. I'm just showing them what any human could do in my position." The door chimed. It was time. The arena was massive, carved from the interior of one of the station's largest sections. Seats rose in curved tiers around a central floor, and every seat was filled. Lisa had never seen so many different alien species in one place. Creatures with scales, fur, feathers, and skin in colors she had no names for all watched as she entered. The noise was incredible. Hundreds of voices speaking in dozens of languages created a roar that echoed off the metal walls. As Lisa walked to the center of the arena, the volume increased. Some aliens cheered, but most seemed to be talking among themselves, pointing at her and making what she assumed were comments about her size. Hal waited at the opposite end of the arena. Behind him stood another, even larger than the commander. This one had to be 8 feet tall, with shoulders that seemed impossibly broad. His forearms were thick with muscle, and metal plates were visible beneath his purple skin where his augmentations had been installed. "Humans," Hal's voice boomed through the arena's speaker system. "This is champion of the military. He has never been defeated in single combat. He has broken the backs of warriors from 20 different species. Today, he will show you the difference between true strength and human weakness. Stepped forward, flexing his forearms. The crowd roared its approval. Lisa noticed that most of the aliens seemed excited by the display. She remained still, her expression calm, waiting. Gregory Banks, the human communications officer, stood in a press box above the arena. His voice came through a different speaker. Ladies and of the Galactic Council, today we witness a test of strength between humanity and the Confederation. The human champion is Security Officer Lisa Martinez, representing Earth. Kate and Daniel sat in a viewing box reserved for the diplomatic delegations. Lisa could see them clearly from where she stood. Kate looked nervous, her hands gripping the railing in front of her. Daniel sat back in his chair, his face unreadable. A neutral arbitrator, a floating creature that looked like a jellyfish with too many tentacles, drifted to the center of the arena. Its translator voice was high and musical. The contest will consist of 3 tests. First, a lifting competition. Second, an endurance challenge in variable gravity. Third, a braking test using reinforced materials. The champion who wins 2 of 3 tests will be declared the victor. The arena floor began to shift and change. Platforms rose from beneath, carrying equipment for the first test. Lisa saw massive weights, each one marked with symbols she didn't recognize. Jake had taught her to read numbers, and she quickly calculated that the smallest weight was equivalent to 300 pounds. The lifting test will begin with the lowest weight, the arbitrator announced. Each champion will lift in turn. When one cannot complete a lift, they are eliminated from this test. Approach the first weight. He wrapped all 4 hands around it and lifted it above his head with ease. The crowd cheered. He held it there for 5 seconds, then set it down gently. He turned to face Lisa, his expression mocking. Lisa walked to the same weight. She bent down, gripped it with both hands, and lifted. The weight came up smoothly. It was heavy, certainly, but nothing she couldn't handle. She had lifted similar weights during her Marine training, usually after running 5 miles in full gear. She held it overhead for 5 seconds and set it down. The crowd's noise changed. The cheering became mixed with surprised murmurs. Lisa heard several aliens near the front discussing what they had just seen. One of them sounded shocked that she had matched lift. The weights increased. 500 pounds, 700, 1,000, each time lifted first, showing off by holding the weight longer than necessary. Each time Lisa followed and matched him. She noticed that by the 1,000-pound mark, his arms were starting to shake slightly. The metal plates under his skin glowed faintly, indicating his augmentations were working hard. At 1,500 pounds, struggled. He got the weight up, but his 4 arms trembled with effort. He held it for the required 5 seconds and dropped it with a heavy crash. He was breathing hard, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Lisa approached the weight. She took her time, setting her feet properly, adjusting her grip. Then she lifted. The weight was significant. She felt it in her shoulders and back, but her earth-trained muscles handled it. She held it steady for 5 seconds, then set it down with control, not dropping it like had. The crowd erupted. Aliens jumped from their seats, shouting and pointing. The betting pools apparently had not expected this outcome. Gregory's voice barely carried over the noise. Martinez matches at every weight. This is unprecedented. Hal stood abruptly in his viewing box, his 4 arms waving in agitation. Lisa could see him arguing with the arbitrator, though she couldn't hear the words over the crowd noise. The weights continued to increase. At 2,000 pounds, failed. He got the weight off the ground but couldn't lift it overhead. He tried 3 times, his augmented muscles straining, the metal plates under his skin glowing bright with heat. On the 3rd attempt, one of his arms gave out and he had to drop the weight to avoid injury. Lisa approached the 2,000-pound weight. The crowd fell silent, watching. She knew this was at the edge of what she could do, but edge was still possible. She breathed deep, centered herself, and remembered every heavy thing she had ever lifted on Earth. Equipment, injured soldiers, debris after explosions. She had moved all of it through gravity that these aliens found crushing. She lifted. The weight came up slowly, but it came up. Her arms shook with effort, her back muscles burned, but she got it overhead. 5 seconds. She counted them in her head, holding steady. Then she set it down, breathing hard but still standing strong. The arena exploded with noise. The test was over. Lisa had won the first competition. The arbitrator's voice cut through the chaos. First test complete. Human champion Martinez is victorious. Second test will begin momentarily. The lifting platforms sank back into the floor. New equipment rose to take their place. Lisa recognized a running track, but this one had panels along its surface that glowed with energy indicators. The endurance test, the arbitrator announced. Each champion will run on this track while gravity is incrementally increased. The champion who can continue running at the highest gravity level wins. Stepped onto the track, looking determined. The gravity started at standard station levels. What the arbitrator called 1G ran easily, his long legs carrying him forward with grace. The gravity increased to 1.2G. He continued running. At 1.5G, his pace slowed noticeably. At 1.7G, he was struggling, his breathing labored. At 2G, twice the gravity of his home world collapsed. His augmented muscles couldn't compensate for the increased weight bearing down on his low-gravity evolved frame. Medical personnel rushed onto the track to assist him. Lisa stepped onto the track. Standard gravity felt light to her, like walking through water instead of air. When it increased to 1.2G, she barely noticed. Earth's gravity was 1.0G by the station's scale, but that scale was based on galactic averages. For Lisa, this felt like home. The gravity continued to increase. At 2G, where had failed, Lisa kept running. Her pace was steady, controlled. At 2.5G, she felt the weight, but her body knew how to handle it. Years of training in variable gravity had prepared her for this. At 3G, the crowd was silent with disbelief. At 3.5G, Lisa finally slowed her pace. Her breathing was heavy now, her legs burning with effort. But she was still running. At 4G, she stopped, not because she couldn't continue, but because the arbitrator called the test complete. The arena floor cleared as medical teams helped to safety. Lisa stood in the center, catching her breath while waiting for the third test to begin. She could feel the eyes of hundreds of aliens on her, could sense their disbelief and growing curiosity. The crowd's noise had changed from mockery to genuine interest. Hal descended from his viewing box and walked onto the arena floor. His four arms moved in agitated patterns as he approached the arbitrator. They spoke in hushed tones, but Lisa could see the commander was angry. His body language screamed frustration. The arbitrator floated higher into the air where everyone could see it. There will be a brief delay before the third test. The delegation has requested a medical verification of the human champion. Lisa had expected this. She stood calmly while a team of neutral doctors approached her with their scanning equipment. They ran their devices over her body, checking for hidden augmentations, chemical enhancements, or any form of artificial improvement. The scans took 15 minutes, during which the crowd grew restless. Finally, the lead doctor, a being with 6 legs and crystal-like skin, announced the results. The human shows no signs of artificial enhancement, no augmentations, no chemical boosters, no hidden technology. She is entirely biological. The crowd erupted in discussion. Lisa heard fragments of conversation in various languages, all expressing shock. How could a being perform like this? Several aliens were already on their communication devices, probably contacting their home worlds with this news. Hal's face twisted with what Lisa recognized as barely controlled rage. He spoke to the arbitrator again, his voice rising loud enough for her to hear. The tests are insufficient. They prove nothing. We demand a true demonstration of destructive capability. The arbitrator's tentacles waved uncertainly. That was not part of the agreed terms. Then I am changing the terms, Hal snapped. He turned to address the entire arena. These lifting games and running tricks mean nothing. True strength is measured in battle in the ability to destroy your enemies. I propose a new test. Let the human strike one of our military shuttles with her bare hand. If she can damage it, we will acknowledge her strength. If she cannot, she admits defeat. Lisa saw Kate stand up in the diplomatic box, shaking her head. Daniel was already on his communicator, probably trying to get instructions from Earth. But Lisa knew there was no time for lengthy discussions. This was the real test, the one Hal had wanted all along. Everything else had just been leading to this moment. I accept, Lisa called out, her voice carrying across the arena. Kate looked horrified. Even Daniel seemed shocked, but Lisa understood what was happening. Hal needed to save face after his champion had been defeated twice. He needed a test that seemed impossible, something that would let him claim the whole contest was unfair. Excellent, Hal said, showing his teeth in what might have been a smile. We will move to the docking bay. Everyone may observe. The crowd filed out of the arena, following the delegations toward the station's main docking bay. Lisa walked with her team, Kate pulling her aside as they moved through the corridors. "Lisa, this is insane," Kate whispered urgently. "You could break your hand, you could seriously injure yourself. A shuttle hull is designed to withstand impacts from space debris." "I know what I'm doing, Ambassador," Lisa said calmly. "Trust me." Daniel joined them. "Martinez, I can still call this off. We can claim the terms were changed unfairly, refuse to continue." "And then what, sir? We go home with nothing. Earth needs these trade agreements. Humanity needs to establish ourselves out here. We can't do that by backing down every time someone challenges us." They reached the docking bay, a vast space filled with ships of various sizes. Hal directed them to a military shuttle in the center of the bay. It was sleek and dark, covered in armor plating that gleamed under the bay's lights. The shuttle was about the size of a small aircraft, 30 feet long with swept-back wings and what looked like weapon ports along its sides. "This shuttle's armor can withstand direct hits from small arms fire," Hal announced to the gathered crowd. "Its hull is reinforced with our strongest alloys. No being has ever damaged one of our vessels with their bare hands." He turned to Lisa. "But please, human, make your attempt. Show us this legendary Earth strength." Jake pulled Lisa aside. His face was pale with worry. "Lisa, I need to be honest with you. The math doesn't look good. That hull can withstand impacts of several thousand pounds per square inch. Even with your strength, with your bone density, I don't know if you can generate enough force with a punch to damage it significantly." "Jake," Lisa said softly, "what's the one thing everyone keeps forgetting?" "What do you mean?" "Earth's gravity. It doesn't just make my bones stronger. It doesn't just make my muscles more powerful. It affects everything about how I move. Every punch I've ever thrown, every strike I've ever landed, it was all done while fighting against gravity that these aliens find crushing. Out here in their normal gravity, I'm not fighting against the same weight." Understanding dawned in Jake's eyes. "You'll be faster. The force equation, mass times acceleration. If your acceleration increases in lower gravity while your mass remains the same." "Exactly. Now give me some space. I need to focus." The crowd formed a wide circle around the shuttle. Lisa walked to the center, facing the vessel's main hull. She rolled her shoulders, stretched her arms, and took several deep breaths. This wasn't like lifting weights or running on a track. This was about focus, about channeling every bit of her strength into a single point of impact. She thought about her training, years of martial arts practice on Earth, where every movement felt like pushing through water. Hours spent conditioning her hands, her wrists, her arms to deliver maximum force. All of it done under the weight of Earth's gravity. She thought about her mother's message, show them what Earth raised. Lisa approached the shuttle and placed her hand against its hull, feeling the cold metal. She stepped back, set her feet in a proper stance, and centered her weight. The arena fell silent. Even the ambient noise of the station seemed to fade away. She pulled her arm back, rotating her shoulders, engaging her core. Every muscle in her body aligned for this single purpose. Then she moved. The punch was fast, faster than anything the aliens had seen. Her fist traveled forward with all the power Earth had built into her body, with the momentum of a lifetime spent fighting gravity. Her knuckles connected with the shuttle's hull. The sound was incredible, a boom that echoed through the entire docking bay. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The shuttle sat still, unmarked. Lisa stepped back, her hand throbbing but unbroken. Then the damage became visible. A dent appeared in the hull where her fist had struck, a deep impression in the reinforced metal. Cracks spread out from the impact point, running along the shuttle's surface like a spider web. The sound of stressed metal filled the bay, a groaning shriek as the internal structure began to fail. The shuttle's frame warped. The wing on the impact side drooped as support struts snapped inside the hull. Emergency alarms began wailing as the shuttle's computer systems detected catastrophic structural damage. Fluid leaked from ruptured lines, pooling on the deck below. The crowd stared in absolute silence. Then chaos erupted. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages, their voices overlapping in confusion and amazement. Some ran forward to examine the damaged shuttle. Others simply stood frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Lisa looked at her hand. It was red, would probably bruise, but nothing was broken. She had pulled the punch at the last second, holding back just enough to protect herself while still delivering devastating force. Jake had been right about the math, but he hadn't accounted for technique, for years of training in how to hit something with maximum efficiency. Hal pushed through the crowd, his face showing pure shock. He touched the damaged shuttle with one hand, his fingers tracing the cracks in the hull. "This is not possible. No one can do this. You must have used a weapon, a hidden device." "Scan me again," Lisa said simply. "Check your security footage. I used nothing but my own hand." Station security were already reviewing the recordings. One of them projected the footage in the air above the crowd. Everyone watched as Lisa's punch connected with the shuttle, watched the impossibly fast movement, the perfect form, the devastating result. Hal's voice was hollow. "You destroyed our shuttle." "You asked me to demonstrate human strength," Lisa replied. "I did." The commander looked at her, and Lisa saw something change in his expression. The arrogance was gone. The mockery had the Galactic Council chambers were filled to capacity 3 days after the incident in the docking bay. Representatives from every member species sat in their designated areas, and the air hummed with translation devices working overtime. Lisa stood with the human delegation in their assigned section, her bruised hand now fully healed thanks to Amy's treatment. The council leader, an ancient being that looked like a walking tree, raised one branch-like arm for silence. "We are gathered to address the events that occurred during the strength demonstration between the human champion and the delegation. An official inquiry has been conducted. We will now hear the findings." A neutral investigator, the same crystal-skinned doctor who had scanned Lisa in the arena, floated to the center of the chamber. The investigation examined all evidence, including security footage, medical scans, and material analysis of the damaged shuttle. "Our findings are conclusive. The human known as Lisa Martinez used no weapons, no hidden devices, and no artificial enhancements. The damage to the shuttle was caused entirely by her physical strength." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The investigator continued. "However, this raised questions about human capabilities in general. With permission, we expanded our inquiry to examine Earth itself and the conditions under which humanity evolved." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Earth rotating slowly in space. The planet looked beautiful, blue and green with swirling white clouds. But as the investigator spoke, new data overlaid the image. "Earth's gravity measures 2.3 times the galactic average for habitable worlds," the investigator said. Red zones appeared on the display. "Its atmospheric pressure at sea level would crush most species. Its weather patterns are violent and unpredictable, with storms that generate more energy than some species' entire power grids. The planet experiences regular seismic activity, volcanic eruptions, and climate variations that most civilizations would consider catastrophic disasters." The chamber fell silent as more information appeared on the display. Images of Earth's predators, animals that could kill a human with claws or teeth or venom. Charts showing disease organisms that humanity had learned to fight. Graphs depicting the sheer physical stress of simply existing on such a world. "Furthermore," the investigator continued, "human history shows continuous warfare, survival challenges, and adaptation to extreme environments. They evolved not just to survive on this planet, but to thrive on it. Every human is, by necessity, adapted to conditions that we have classified as a Class 4. The term sent a ripple through the chamber. Class 4 were planets considered too dangerous for colonization. Most species avoided them entirely. The idea that an intelligent species had evolved there and had built a civilization despite those conditions was almost unthinkable." Jake leaned close to Lisa and whispered, "They're calling Eartha. That's going to change everything." The council leader spoke again. "The inquiry has determined that the human champion acted within the agreed parameters of the challenge. The delegation made accusations of cheating, but these accusations are unfounded. The matter is closed." The ancient being turned toward Hal's section. "Commander, do you have anything to say?" Hal stood slowly. His posture was different now, less arrogant, more careful. "The Confederation acknowledges our error in judgment. We underestimated humanity based on appearance and incomplete information. We formally apologize to the human delegation for our disrespectful treatment." Kate rose from her seat. "The human delegation accepts the apology. We hope this incident can be the foundation for better understanding between our peoples." But the council leader was not finished. This incident has revealed something important to the Galactic Council. We have been operating under incorrect assumptions about humanity. We now understand that humans are naturally adapted to extreme conditions. This changes their status within the galactic community. Over the next hour, the Council discussed new proposals. Multiple species requested formal military cooperation agreements with Earth. Others wanted to establish training programs where their soldiers could learn from human methods. Several species from less defended systems asked if Earth would consider providing security assistance. Daniel stood and addressed the Council. Humanity appreciates this interest in cooperation. However, we must be clear about who we are. Yes, we come from a harsh world. Yes, we are physically capable in ways that surprised many of you. But we are not conquerors. We are not looking to dominate or control. We want to be partners to share our strengths while learning from yours. A delegate from a small species near the outer rim spoke up. But what if we need protection? What if larger species threaten us? Would Earth help? Kate fielded this question. Earth believes in defending those who cannot defend themselves. If formal agreements are established, and if threats are genuine, then yes, we would consider providing assistance, but always with respect for your sovereignty and rights. The discussion continued for hours. Trade agreements that had been stalled for months were suddenly approved with favorable terms. Cultural exchange programs were proposed. Educational partnerships were suggested. The revelation about Earth's true nature had shifted humanity's position in the galactic community dramatically. As the session finally ended, Lisa found herself surrounded by aliens who wanted to meet her. Some asked questions about Earth. Others wanted to know about human training methods. A few, including some officers, asked if she would be willing to teach combat techniques. "I'm just a security officer," Lisa told them. "I'm not special among my people. Any Marine, any soldier from Earth could have done what I did." This statement caused even more surprise. The idea that Lisa was just an average example of human capability seemed to shock the aliens more than anything else. Later that evening, Lisa sat in the human quarters with her team. Jake was reviewing all the new agreements that had been proposed. Amy was fielding medical inquiries from dozens of species who wanted to understand human physiology. Daniel and Kate were on communication with Earth Command, reporting everything that had happened. "You did it," Kate said to Lisa during a break in the communications. "You changed everything for us out here." Lisa shook her head. "I just showed them what we are, what any human is when we're being honest about our capabilities." "That's exactly the point," Daniel said. "We've been so focused on making friends, on fitting in, that we forgot we don't need to make ourselves smaller. We can be who we are and still be good neighbors." Gregory came in with his tablet, showing them news from Earth. The story of Lisa's punch had reached the home world, and the response was overwhelming. People were proud. Children were already trying to recreate the moment in playgrounds. The video of the damaged shuttle had been viewed billions of times. "You're famous," Gregory told Lisa. "They're calling you the woman who made Earth a galactic power with one punch." Lisa laughed. "That's silly. It wasn't about power, it was about showing the truth." But over the following weeks, as more agreements were signed and more partnerships formed, Lisa came to understand the real impact of what had happened. Humanity had been seen as weak, as soft, as newcomers who needed permission to exist in galactic society. Now they were seen as partners, as allies worth having, as people whose friendship came with real value. The delegation reached out through official channels, requesting a meeting. Lisa attended with Daniel and Kate. Hal was there, looking uncomfortable but determined. "We would like to formally request human military advisors," he said without preamble. "Not because we are weak, but because we recognize that our methods have limitations. Your natural abilities, your training techniques, your understanding of physical combat in high-stress environments, these are things we can learn from." "We can discuss terms," Kate said diplomatically. "There is one more thing," Hal added. He looked directly at Lisa. "I spoke harshly to you. I treated you and your people with contempt. This was wrong. I let my pride blind me to the truth. I am sorry." Lisa nodded. "Apology accepted, Commander, and for what it's worth, I understand. Everyone makes assumptions. The important thing is what we do after we learn we were wrong." 6 months later, Lisa stood on the observation deck of a human ship orbiting Earth. She had been asked to return home for a ceremony, though no one would tell her exactly what kind of ceremony. Below her, the planet turned slowly, showing her the continents and oceans where humanity had been born. She thought about everything that had changed. Earth was no longer a minor world trying to gain acceptance. Humanity was now recognized as one of the stronger species in the galaxy, not because they were aggressive, but because they were capable. Human advisors were training alien security forces. Human doctors were sharing medical techniques developed to handle Earth's harsh conditions. Human engineers were solving problems other species had considered impossible. And all of it had started with one punch. Daniel found her at the observation window. "They're ready for you." The ceremony was simple. Earth's government had created a new medal for service to humanity's advancement among the stars. Lisa was the first recipient. She stood in front of cameras broadcasting to billions of people on Earth and across human colonies, and she felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "I just did my job," she said when asked to speak. "I showed them what a human can do, but the important part isn't that I'm special. The important part is that I'm not. Every single one of us carries Earth with us. Every single one of us has this strength, this endurance, this capability. We just need to remember it and use it wisely." After the ceremony, Lisa went home to visit her family. Her mother hugged her tight, tears in her eyes. Her brother showed her a video of kids at his school practicing punches, all of them pretending to be her. "You gave people something to be proud of," her mother said. "You reminded everyone what we're capable of when we stopped doubting ourselves." Lisa sat in her childhood home, eating her mother's cooking, watching Earth's sun set through the window. In orbit above, alien ships waited, ships from species who were now allies and friends. Out in the galaxy, humans were taking their place as equals, not because they demanded respect, but because they had earned it. She thought about Hal's question in the docking bay, "What are you?" She had given him the simple answer: she was human from Earth. But now she understood the deeper truth. She was the product of a world that demanded strength to survive, a world that taught its children to endure, to adapt, to overcome. She was the result of millions of years of evolution on a planet that never made anything easy. She carried that legacy in every cell of her body. And so did every other human alive. That was the real lesson the galaxy had learned. Not that Lisa Martinez was unusually strong, but that humanity itself was stronger than anyone had imagined. And now that the truth was known, nothing would ever be the same. Lisa finished her meal and looked out at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, aliens were learning what it meant to be human. They were discovering that kindness and capability could exist together, that strength and compassion were not opposites. Earth had sent its children to the stars, and the stars would never forget what they had learned. One punch had changed everything. But it was what came after the punch, the relationships built, the partnerships formed, the mutual respect earned, that really mattered. Lisa smiled and raised her glass in a silent toast to all of it. To Earth, to humanity, and to the galaxy that was finally beginning to understand what humans truly were. Disappeared, what remained looked almost like fear. "What are you?" he whispered. Lisa met his eyes steadily. "I'm human from Earth, and this is what we can do." "Impossible," she heard someone shout from the crowd. "No being can function at 4G. Lisa walked off the track, breathing hard but recovering quickly. Amy's words echoed in her mind. Every day on Earth was training. Every step against that gravity made her stronger. 2 tests down, she had won both. The crowd knew it. Hal knew it. Even being helped from the arena by medics knew it. But the 3rd test remained. Lisa walked out into the corridor, her team following behind her. The crowd noise grew louder as they approached the arena. She could hear aliens talking in dozens of languages, all discussing the upcoming contest. As she reached the entrance, she paused and took a deep breath. Earth's gravity had made her strong. Earth's environment had made her tough. Earth's challenges had made her capable of things these aliens couldn't imagine. She carried her whole world with her in her bones and blood and muscle. She stepped through the doorway into the arena, ready to show the galaxy what a human really was. "And you're confident you can handle whatever they throw at you." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "Sir, they have no idea what Earth is really like. They think we're weak because we're shorter than them. They think we're soft because we don't look like warriors, but they've never had to survive a day on our world." Kate looked between them, then sighed. "Very well, but we prepare carefully. We research everything we can about physiology. We understand exactly what we're up against." Yes, ma'am, Lisa said. As they left the diplomatic hall, Lisa felt a strange mix of anticipation and calm. She had been in tough situations before, had faced enemies who thought they had the advantage. But she carried with her a secret that they didn't understand. Earth was not the easy world they imagined, and humans were not the weak species they believed them to be. 3 days. She had 3 days to get ready to show the galaxy what a human could really do.